Hello, everyone. This is Kerwin, and welcome to another episode of Travel Talk. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to handle delays. Let's go. So, this one kind of cuts to the core because I think I'm going to give you a little background. I was in Kingston, Jamaica, and I was on a flight heading to Atlanta, and we had a delay. So I got a message that said flight's delayed. And the flight was supposed to be at 9 o'clock. It said it was going to be delayed until 11:20. So, but you have to get to the airport at your scheduled departure time. So this is the first tip that you need to know when your flight gets delayed. Always, unless it get canceled and is rescheduled to a different time, always arrive at the airport at your scheduled departure time. Now, there's lots of different reasons for this, right? One of them is sometimes the airline is only there for a specific time, because especially if it's an outstation, they're just there between a certain hours. Sometimes the airport security, which in the US everybody knows as TSA, it's not called TSA outside the US. Just I'm just going to say airport security. The issue is that airport security may close at a different time. So let's say you have a flight and the flight was delayed. So it's not leaving at 10 o'clock, it's leaving at 1 a.m. And you go, oh, I'm just going to show up at the airport at midnight because, it's close to my time and I don't want to wait in the airport. Well, you get there and airport security closes at 11. There's nothing you can do because you can't get inside the terminal. You go back to the counter and the counter's closed because there's nobody there. So you're stuck until the next day. So always show up. I know it's annoying and I know it's weird, but you need to show up at your scheduled departure time so you can check in properly for that scheduled departure time. Now, in this case, the flight was at 9 a.m., so we needed to be there at 6 a.m. because it's international flight, and I had my parents with me, so I had to make sure that I had to give them extra time. And so we get about 6:30 and checked in, went through security, got a text message that the flight is delayed until 4:30. And so now, um, imagine you're there, your parents are older, and you're going to be at the airport when everybody was up early and everybody's tired, and you already had the 11:20 delay, which worked okay. So uh, it wasn't very fun. So then the other thing to remember is make sure that the airline takes care of you. So I jumped on the phone and I called reservation. I said, "Hey, this is the situation. Can you put me on another flight?" Uh, in Kingston, this is kind of an interesting scenario because there are multiple airports in Jamaica, Kingston and Montego Bay International Airports, with commercial flights. Actually, there's three. There's Kingston, Ocho Rios, and there's Montego Bay. Ocho-Rios, the only international to the US out of there is American. They fly into Miami a few times a week. And there's also Inter-Caribbean Airlines that fly to, I think, Turks and Caicos. So I called and they said, well, we could try to get you to go to Montego Bay and take another flight because they have like about 8 flights a day out of Montego Bay. They do JFK and Atlanta. From Kingston, there's only one flight. But if I was flying alone, it would have made sense for me to go, but I wasn't flying alone. And when you fly with, people who need a little extra time to board the plane, you you can't just go, I'm gonna do this. So that didn't work out. Then I said, well, I looked at the board and there was a Miami flight on American. Now this would have meant I'd have to go back out to the counter, have Delta get my bags, and then go check him in an American, which we could have done. It would have taken a little while, but we could have done it. We had enough time. However, though, that flight to Miami was full. on American because it was during spring break was just getting over. They had something in Jamaica called Champs, and Champs is a it's an athletic championships. So it's where they do track and fields, and say 100-meter running and javelin and pole vault and things like that. And that had just completed, so everything was full live in Kingston. So that wasn't an option. Then there was a flight and Spirit, which was my I was like, okay, God, we're gonna take Spirit. However, Delta does not have an arrangement. So airlines have what's called interline agreements. This is where they can take passengers from each airline, they can transfer bags from each airline, and at the end of the month, they send a bill and they figure out how much they owe each other. Delta does not have such an agreement with Spirit, nor do they have with JetBlue, and JetBlue was another one that had the flight leaving. So we were there. Now, one thing we couldn't go anywhere, so we had to wait. So then I got another note that the flight was delayed until 12:30. I'm like, oh, great. But then I got another note that said the flight was delayed until 3:30. Not so great. And all this happened in like within an hour or something like that. Then I looked on the board, and the board didn't have the correct information. The information was never updated on the board in the airport. Now, you will see this happen from time to time, like even in the US airports. What happened is that for some reason, the airports sometimes is not in sync with the airline. So whoever is updating that board doesn't update information when it comes from the airline. So you may see the board say that your flight's departing at 3 o'clock, but it's really departing at 2 o'clock. Because I don't know why. And I keep asking, but no one wants to say, if you know, you let me know. Why is it? And I mean, I know why, but why? Well, you know what I mean. I don't understand why is it that the two systems can't be updated. Now, granted, I know that one is run by airport operations and one is run by the airline, and they don't talk to each other. But the question is, why aren't they talking to each other, right? Uh, and I even went over and talked to the girl, to the lady, and I said, well, your airport operations, you know what's going on at the airport, and she was on the phone with airport operations trying to figure it out. Because eventually she came back and she said, yeah, they say it's leaving at 4:30. And so they posted 4:30 on the board. However, though, this wasn't exactly um, true because although it said 4:30, um, the flight left at 3:30. Well, we left about 4 instead of 3:30. Well, but 3:30 was this quote unquote scheduled, newly scheduled time. And it was just a matter of getting down to the gate and waiting. But before we even get to all that, oh, the lounge wasn't working. So because the lounge wasn't working, I couldn't get to go hang out in the lounge. So we had to buy food. Now, which brings up the buying food bit. Most airlines, last time I had a thing with a US airline in the US, was American, and they gave me $12. And there's a video that I have, and I put it somewhere, probably over here, uh, that talks about, well, what can I buy with $12? In the US, not much. You can probably get a drink or you can get something to eat, but not both. And it depends on what time of the day it is and what you want to eat and which restaurant you want to use. But they give you $12. Um, Now they also give you the same $12 in Jamaica, but $12 in Jamaica is worth about 2,000 Jamaican dollars. So what they did was after complaining, they gave us a voucher for $2,000. And that $2,000 actually bought a lot of food. It was a complete meal. And I had drinks, so you could get extra drinks because you still didn't hit the 2,000. Now, now Delta or American or United doesn't fly to Kingston, but don't go changing that $12 for international because so not every airport is equal. There's some places like in Europe, if you give me $12, that's like, if I'm in the UK, that's like what, $10. If I'm in other parts of Europe, it's like close to 12, but I can't get meals for 12 euros internationally. So the airlines kind of need to figure this out, and that amount that they're giving you should be somebody needs to go to these airports and say, what can I get as a meal, the average price at these airports? So you don't give people money that they doesn't make any sense to them, right? But anyway, in Jamaica, the $2,000 was adequate, and we were able to get a meal. Now we were there from in the morning, from like 6:30 we got to the airport, and we didn't leave until 4 p.m. and they only gave us one voucher. So typically, I had to end up buying breakfast. We should have gotten breakfast voucher and we should get dinner voucher because we were there for lunch voucher. We were there for so long. And we had to make a fuss to get the lunch voucher. So the thing is, you need to ask the airline. So we couldn't talk to airline because there was no airline personnel around. And eventually we had a personal assistant with a wheelchair. We talked to her and she made a page and they showed up. And when they showed up, they gave us a voucher, which was a really long, convoluted process. But we got a voucher and we could go get food. And this happened maybe about 11:30 or something like that. Um, Maybe it was noon. I can't remember the exact time. But the thing is to make sure that you can get, uh, um, you know what you're going to ask for. So first, show up at the check-in for the scheduled departure time, because if you don't, you're probably going to miss your flight. And you can see this because this flight kept changing. It went from 11:20 to 4:30 to 12:30 to 4:30 to 3:30. And so I was even talking to one guy who, when it went to 12:30, I was passing by the gate because in Kingston, the departure area is really far from the gate. And I mean really far. And so we were in the departure area because that's where all the food is. There's no food down by the gates. And the escalator wasn't working. The elevator can only take one person in a wheelchair at a time. So it was a little weird. And the lounge wasn't working. So everything was like, really annoying. And so one, make sure you're there. So make sure you're there for whatever time they tell you you need to be there at your regular scheduled departure time. I know it's annoying, and I know you get to stay in the airport for a long time, but make sure you do that. The other thing is see if the airline can put you on another airline because and we had a connecting flight, so the whole connecting situation was messed up. Although they did rebook us on a connecting flight, but it was a later one, and so we ended up getting home very, very late. So let's talk. So that's about food. Make sure you ask for a food voucher. And if you have special needs, make sure you talk to the agent. When I call, the lady says that I can save all my receipts and they'll do some reimbursements after the flight. The other thing to ensure you have is travel insurance. Travel insurance is good because in a situation like this, it'll cover you. So if the airline not giving you any food or anything like that, you can go because some airlines are very weird when it comes to this because there's another airline that had issues and they weren't giving out any vouchers. And they were delayed. They were leaving at 6 a.m. or 7:30, sorry. And they were delayed until like 12:30. And I don't think those people got any vouchers or anything like that. So if you have travel insurance, and this is not a pitch for travel insurance, but if you have travel insurance, you can claim it for all the money that you spent because you had that delay. So it's good to get travel insurance. And I do have travel insurance from my website, passrider.com/travel insurance. So you can take a look at that. But make sure you do travel insurance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the claim to the airline and see what they cover. And they should cover all my expenses that I had. Because I even had to do extra transportation as a result of arriving at the airport late. And they should take care of that. Not all airlines are created equal, so you may not get the same perks, but the travel insurance should cover you. Now, you can't double dip. Can't get paid by the airline and get paid by travel insurance. It doesn't work that way. It's one or the other. Or if one pays you some, then the travel insurance can pick up the rest. Because when you do the travel insurance, they're going to ask you, well, what did the airline cover? And you need to be truthful so they don't come back and get you because then they'll probably kick you out of the program if you decide to cheat. Um, Let me hear of any stories that you had, uh, concerning this kind of delay and what happened to the delay and how did the airline take care of you? I think that's all I got. This is Kerwin with, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. I appreciate it. And this is Kerwin at PassRide.com and cruising.2.com. Have a good trip, and hopefully you won't have any delays. Talk to you soon.